but I'd love for you to kind of just recap your own scientific story for the audiences who are meeting you for the first time through this podcast.
Yeah.
So can you like explain your story from the point of selling off the company at age 34?
Yeah.
And if you're comfortable, I'd love for you to talk about how much money you made by selling the company off and how that money felt.
Yeah. I remember the day I made roughly 300 million from the sale of my company, Braintree Venmo. And I remember when it hit my bank account and I logged on and I saw the number and it was just surreal. My 2 boys were with me and I said, boys, come over here. I need to show you something. And I said, do you see that number? That's how much money we have right now. And they said, well, Dad, what does that mean? And I said, well, okay, for like your allowance, you get $1 a week or whatever it was. And, we have, 300 million of these. And so they're like, what can we do? Can we buy a car and can we buy, and it was this conversation where I knew the sale was coming. I knew we were going to make money. I knew the impact to my children was going to be significant, more so than I could understand. And there were 2 ways to think about this. One is I read that parents sometimes hide their wealth from the kids, especially young kids. And when the kids get to a certain age, it's like, surprise, the parents are very rich. And then other parents are much more transparent about it. And so I chose the transparency path. And I said, we now have a lot of money. And here is how we're going to behave as a family with this amount of money. And I just built it into their psyche from the first day. Like, we're still going to be frugal as a family. We're not going to buy lavish things. Like, we're not going to spend in a silly way. But I turned it to a teaching moment with my children. Internally, I was broke, like just broken as a human. I didn't feel anything. I didn't even care we had money. Like, there was nothing I wanted to buy. There was nothing I wanted to do. I was so depressed out of my mind that it just meant nothing to me. And so I had been pursuing this goal for 13, 14 years. And I'd just been beaten down. And now I knew I had this freedom, but I had no objective. I was just like, I was purposeless. I was like adrift at sea. I was biochemically just in the depths of depression. So that moment was very hard. And so like trying to like redirect my hopelessness into my children was like a way for me to escape myself and try to contribute in some way to my kids.
What did that cocktail of sadness and lavish wealth feel like?
I didn't care. Just genuinely did not care.
What did it teach you about life?
The why behind our existence matters so much more than the how. And I didn't have a why.
So when you say the how, you mean the processes, the careers we attach ourselves to, the missions we attach ourselves to. But when you say the why, it's the layer of cake below the spongy layer.
Yeah. It's
right?
like, it's this whole situation is so bizarre. We're conscious beings on this floating rock in space in this gigantic universe. How did this come to be? And what do we do? And it was just, that was the omnipresent question in my mind. And I had grown up in a community where it was a very religious community. And they basically said, like, this is reality. Like, you existed before this life. Here's why you're here on this planet. And here's what happens after life. And like, here's all the rules. And here's how you understand, like, basically a rule book that gives you all the answers to life. You don't need to figure anything out. You just need to learn what you've been told. And then when I realized that I didn't believe that was like, I had been fed this narrative, then you basically are left with an entire void. You have no understanding of why existence is or what to do about it. And then you become much more aware of, you can say, okay, so I can see like this pocket of people, like this, like capitalism says, like this is a system to make money and become wealthy and buy things and do things and become productive and invent. And you've got religious frameworks and you have societal frameworks. And so then I could look at it from this objective perspective. What are these systems and what are they offering? Like, how are they depicting reality. And that's when I became consumed by this question of what is the riddle to solve existence? And throughout time, various people have tried to do that. So, I mean, Buddha, right, made the observations like, hey, life is suffering, and therefore we should detach ourselves. And here's the old eightfold path. And then other religious traditions kind of sprung up. You know, Muhammad said, submit to God, and Jesus said, I am the Son of God. Adam Smith was like, hey, there's this invisible hand for markets and capitalism and economics. And Marx was like, no, it's really class warfare. Then America was like, no, we the people. It's like various frameworks have like come up in various societies. And that's not all of them, of course, like there's more. And I just wondered, in 2024, is it possible that a new framework to understand reality would emerge, that none of these things that previously were invented would be equal to this moment? And I became obsessed with that question, is there something that doesn't exist, that should exist, that solves the riddle of existence for this moment?
But where did that first seed of this new mission kind of sprout in your head? How did it get placed? Was it a conversation? Was it a story you read? Like, why are you on this path?
It was leaving the community I was born into gave me this detached perspective that most things we believe are not things we chose to believe. They're things that we were told to believe. And then I scrutinized everything I could survey in all of society and say, like, do I believe in anything that society says? Like literally anything outside of my body taking breaths every few seconds that it doesn't want to die. Do I think anything in existence is believable? You know, some things are stable, like physics and math. But outside of that, when you walk into the realm of human narrative, do I believe anything? And what's the reason to believe anything?
Gotcha. So there's a quote that comes up a lot on our show because we do a lot of spiritual episodes. The quote goes something like, everyone has a God, they just call it a different name.
That's right.
So what is your God? Science?
My God is existence.
Existence.
That existence is the highest virtue.
Gotcha. So it's something that the rest of your life's actions are catered towards.
Yes.
Enhancing existence. And the outcome of that is this whole anti-aging game.
Yeah.
Right? When you try kind of giving a practical attachment to the word called existence, we're talking about scientifically reversing aging.
Yes.
Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, if you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out all the other clips we've uploaded on this channel. You'll find a clip related to almost every single topic as long as you're willing to search for it.